Welcome back, everyone. I am Hari, and joining me today is the always insightful Kimmy. Today, we are diving into one of the absolute greatest underdog stories in the entire history of Q sports. We are traveling back to the spring of 1986 for the World Snooker Championship. Kimmy, when we sit down and talk about sporting miracles, this specific tournament has to be right up there, doesn't it? It truly has all the thrilling elements of a Hollywood script, from shocking early exits to brilliant new stars emerging on the scene.
Hello, Hari, and a warm welcome to our lovely listeners. It truly does. The 1986 Embassy World Snooker Championship completely flipped the established script. Taking place between April 19th and May 5th at Sheffield's iconic Crucible Theater, it happened during a massive worldwide boom for the sport. The total prize fund was a very handsome £350,000, with a cool £70,000 reserved for the ultimate champion. There was also an £80,000 bonus waiting for a maximum break. But as you hinted, Hari, the real story is about the man who eventually took the crown against all conceivable mathematical odds.
Exactly right. But first, we must talk about the reigning king. Dennis Taylor was the defending champion, having famously beaten Steve Davis 18-17 in that legendary 1985 black ball final that kept half the nation awake. However, 1986 was a completely different story. Taylor arrived looking incredibly jaded, according to sports journalist Clive Everton. He lost the first 7 frames of his opening match against qualifier Mike Hallett, who ended the first session 8-1 ahead. Taylor ultimately crashed out 6-10, perfectly illustrating a rather spooky, long-standing phenomenon in the snooker world.
Ah, yes, the infamous Crucible curse. For our newer listeners, this is the peculiar inability of a first-time world champion to successfully defend their hard-earned title at the Crucible Theater. Taylor joined a very frustrated club of champions, including John Spencer in 1978, Terry Griffiths in 1980, Cliff Thorburn in 1981, and even Steve Davis in 1982. With Taylor out of the picture so early, the draw opened up in fascinating ways, but not before absolute unscripted drama unfolded in the tense qualifying rounds held at the Preston Guildhall over several intense weeks.
Those qualifiers were absolutely packed with historic moments. Notably, 1986 marked the arrival of a true prodigy in the sport. A young Scottish player named Stephen Hendry made his Crucible debut. At 17 years and 3 months old, he became the youngest player ever to compete at the World Snooker Championship. During the second qualifying round against Paddy Brown, Hendry racked up a massive break of 141. It remained the highest break of the qualifying stage, earning him a tidy £1,750 prize for his brilliant efforts, proving age is just a number. It is incredible to think of a 17-year-old Hendry making waves like that. But the qualifiers also gave us some genuinely baffling moments. Take Frank Jonick's match against Bog Chaperone. Tied at 8-all, Jonick was trailing by exactly 22 points in the 17th frame. With exactly 22 points left on the table, he could have drawn, yet he inexplicably conceded. In the 18th frame, he conceded while 53 points behind, despite 75 points still being freely available. He just threw in the towel, losing the match 8-10.
It really makes you wonder what he was thinking. Another astonishing qualifying story involved Steve Newbury. On his way to a crucial match, Newbury was involved in a terrible traffic collision. His car was totally wrecked, and tragically, his wife was injured. Yet Newbury showed up and somehow defeated Omprakash Agrawal 10-5. His mental fortitude is absolutely staggering. Moving into the main draw, legends fell early. 6-time world champion Ray Reardon was knocked out, and 3-time champion John Spencer made his final tournament appearance, losing to Alex Higgins.
Alex Higgins always brought immense drama, and his second-round match against Terry Griffiths was a true nail-biter. At the end of their first session, Higgins missed a black ball that would have put him 6-2 ahead. Instead, the frame went to Griffiths. That single miss changed everything. Griffiths stormed back, hit a 110 break, and later fluked a red ball to win a crucial 15th frame. Griffiths eventually sneaked past Higgins 13-12 in a tense deciding frame. Meanwhile, Cliff Thorburn had high-stakes personal drama unfolding.
That is my favorite detail. Thorburn was completely dominating Willie Thorne in the quarterfinals, building a commanding 9-3 lead. But while he was systematically dismantling his opponent in Sheffield, thousands of miles away in Canada, Thorburns' wife Barbara was actually giving birth to their second child. He won that match 13-6. In another quarterfinal clash, Steve Davis absolutely demolished Jimmy White 13-5. Davis was in phenomenal form, opening the entire match with a stunning 134 break, the highest of the main tournament.
Davis looked completely unstoppable going into the semifinals against the new father, Cliff Thorburn. Thorburn was actually on course for a maximum 147 break in the sixth frame, but agonizingly failed on the ninth black. Davis capitalized and ground out a tough 16-12 victory. But the other semifinal is where our underdog truly roared. Joe Johnson, the 16th seed, played Tony Knowles. Johnson was dealing with a severely painful cyst on his back, taking painkillers just to stand, yet he amazingly coasted to a 16-8 victory, which beautifully sets the grand stage for a classic David versus Goliath showdown. On one side, you have Steve Davis reaching his fifth world final, widely considered the master of the sport. On the other side, Joe Johnson. Prior to this tournament, bookmakers had Johnson at incredible 150-1 odds. In his 7-year professional career, Johnson had never won a single tournament, nor had he ever won a match at the Crucible. Davis was a massive 2/9 favorite. It was supposed to be a completely routine crowning event.
But Johnson clearly didn't read the script, nor did he adhere to the traditional dress code. On the second day of the final, Johnson wore an unusual pair of red, pink, and white leather shoes. It perfectly matched his fearless, attacking style on the table. Davis started strong, leading 3-1 with century breaks of 108 and 107, but Johnson refused to be intimidated, impressively clawing back to 8-all overnight. When they resumed play, Johnson went on an absolute tear, winning 4 straight frames to take a 12-8 lead.
The Sheffield crowd absolutely fell in love with him. They gravitated toward his attacking, long-potting style, which we now view as a harbinger of the aggressive snooker that entirely dominated the 1990s. Fed by the audience's electric energy, Johnson won 3 of the first 4 frames in the final session. He finally secured a solid break of 64 in frame 30, winning the match 18-12. That historic victory skyrocketed his world ranking from 16th to 8th. The final brilliantly pulled in a massive 15.6 million peak television viewers.
The aftermath was just as charming as the match. Steve Davis, finding himself the runner-up for a second consecutive year, joked to interviewer David Vine, "We can't go on meeting like this, David." Johnson sweetly retorted, "I hope that we can still be friends." Johnson became an instant celebrity overnight, appearing on the talk show Wogan and accompanying Cliff Richard to Wimbledon. Interestingly, this remained Johnson's only ranking event win. This classic final was even showcased on BBC Two in April 2020, replacing the sadly postponed coronavirus pandemic tournament.
It is amazing to think about the lasting legacy of that single tournament. Joe Johnson's attacking flair was not just a flash in the pan, it actively shifted how the game was played. The slow, tactical safety battles of the early 80s were slowly replaced by players attempting audacious long pots. Furthermore, the sheer volume of century breaks, 20 in total during the main stage, was the highest ever recorded at the World Snooker Championship up until the 1991 event. It truly marked a turning point in the sport's evolution, making it much more spectator-friendly. That is such a fantastic story to revisit. The 1986 tournament had absolutely everything. Teenage prodigies, bizarre frame concessions, new babies born overseas, colorful leather shoes, and the ultimate 150-1 underdog taking down the undisputed king. Joe Johnson's legendary victory remains one of the most magical moments the Crucible Theater has ever witnessed. It perfectly proves you can never rely solely on the odds. Thank you for tuning in to today's deep dive. Take care, and we will surely catch you on the next exciting podcast episode.
This episode is based on the Wikipedia article 1986 World Snooker Championship, which is available under the Creative Commons Attribution Share Alike license. This podcast was crafted using artificial intelligence.